Thank you so much, Mr. Obehi. It's one of my greatest honors to be here again on this insightful and impactful podcast. My name is Mohamed Bachir Camara. I'm Guinean by nationality and African by blood. I'm currently pursuing global challenges degree at Africa Leadership University with a strong focus in governance and conservations. And yeah, thank you.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode. Talking of government, today we are in one of our series where we look at the life and legacy of those who have been here before us. You know, the saying goes that we stand on the shoulder of giants. That is why we can see far ahead of us. So this giant are those who have been here before us, of course, in this case, looking at politics. The person we are looking at today is one of the greatest African in politics. So the person of Ahmed Sékou Touré. Of course, it's coming from your country. So you are going to help us to learn about him today. So we are looking at his life and legacy. By that we mean, who is he? What have he done? What can we learn from him? So we start from the basis. How would you describe the person of Sékou Touré?
Thank you so much for asking me these amazing questions. And in order to let know about Sékou Touré's life, I'm going to start from his childhood, which is very, very inspiring, by the way, because if you don't really understand that, we'll not be able to understand some of the actions that he has been able to tackle in his community. Firstly, Sékou Touré was born on January 1922 in the village of Farana, which is in the Haute Guinea regions of Guinea. And he was the Guinean, the country of the Republic of Guinea was colonized by French, and his parents were from the Malinke ethnic group, because we have several ethnic groups in Guinea. And his father was a respected cleric, and Sékou Touré taught him the Quran and Arabic, because in Guinea, the most predominant religions, it's Islam. And in 1945, Sékou Touré became involved in politics while joining the French Guinea branch of the African Democratic Rally, which we call RDA in Guinea, which was a political party that advocated for African independence. And in that same aspect, in 1952, he was elected Secretary General for the Guinean branch of the RDA, a position that allowed him to organize protests and demonstrations against French colonialism. As a whole, I would say that Sékou Touré was really determined and convicted into the emancipations of the Republic of Guinea. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. All right, now let's go back again, because you started from the basis, and that is really very important. Now, when we look at him, Sékou Touré, as a young person growing up in what will later become the Republic of Guinea, is there anything that we can pinpoint? Did he have friends? Where did he go to school? What can we learn from his childhood as an ordinary person?
Oh, that question is very, very critical, by the way, because Sékou Touré, he started like he was at the primary, because after having like a period of Islamic educations, his parents tried to take him to the French, schools. And later on, when he was at the primary, he tried to protest against some of the actions that French people were doing in Guinea. And later on, they tried to sack him away, because he was really protesting and involving so many youth in order to protest and express, their feelings about the colonialism systems. And he left school earlier, but later on he tried to join some of the trainings about communism. Like he joined the communism trainings, whereby he read so many books about so many authors, and he tried to train himself, and he did not have like further educations. But when you talk about Sékou Touré and his speeches, the way he speaks and so on, you will say that Sékou Touré had a PhD, but he didn't have a PhD. That's about the self-education that he had, and he demonstrated a strong leadership aspect in Africa and the Africa as a whole.
All right, that's interesting now. Do we know maybe as he was growing up as a young adolescent, maybe other people that could have influenced him to maybe shaping his whole career or shaping his whole trajectory of the person he will later become in future? But he is still young now. Who could have been influencing him at this young age?
The funny part of this question is that the one who tried to involve him into the political aspect, at the end of the day, he did not have the same aspiration with that person. And the person was the first president of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, Félix Houphouët-Boigny. Félix Houphouët-Boigny was the president of that party, the RDA, that regional party in Guinea. So he was the Secretary General of that party and the president of that party. But later on, in terms of the independence, the same ideas that he had and the same ideas that his predecessor had were not the same. That's why Sékou Touré declared the independence of Guinea before all those French countries that have been colonized by French people.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's very interesting. So, of course, we'll come later into the style of leader that he was. He's a great leader. That is why we are talking about him today. But of course, we're just like scratching the bases, trying to understand some of the things that he has done growing up as a young person, as a young adolescent, as it were. I was just thinking, why he was still growing up and he was beginning to make move in politics, because he already started to protest. Perhaps he didn't like the way that the French were treating the African people, his own people. So I can hear that from you. That is why he was protesting. But can we pinpoint maybe like a kind of event that have happened in those days while he was still young that could have maybe influenced him the more? I don't know, maybe somebody died, maybe an incident happened in the school, or maybe somebody, anything that happened that we can point, a kind of incident in his time that maybe could have been jittering that could have been jittering him more to take his own stand?
Firstly, before Sékou Touré started his fight against the French colonialist people, there was an event that happened because I read a book of an author that talks about the ins and the outs of Sékou Touré. It said that one of the remarkable events that happened whereby Sékou Touré protested was that during the break time, when they were like at the primary school, they did not give the food to his friends. Okay, and that happened regularly and frequently, and he realized that this was not fair, and he tried to protest in order to involve his friends into that process, in order to reclaim their rights, in order to reclaim what they are supposed to have as Guineans, as an Africans, because they were just over there and treating them as like black people who do not have any dignity. And that's why he had that inspirations in order to involve his friends. And later on, he created a trade union whereby all the leaders, Guinea's leaders, were over there. He didn't start being in the political party. He started being in the union, in the trade unions, whereby he was the leader over there, and he was trying to lead his friends on the movement in order to make a better place for everyone there. Because the one significant aspect there was that when he started the trade unions, the workers over there did not have any right for the salaries, for their emancipation in the society, and he reclaimed their rights as well. And he protested like for days and days in order to make things on the right track for the people in the Republic of Guinea, which try to recognize him on the African continent and been called by the first president of the Côte d'Ivoire to create a regional party of the RDA in the Republic of Guinea.
All right, that's interesting. So at this time of creating the political party, at what age was he? How old was he at this time? About more, maybe not exactly the year, but like about how old was he at this time?
He was not even married at that moment. He was not even married at that moment. He was really young, by the way. And he was the youngest leader in that party at the moment. But he was the most influential person in that party. The youngest, but the most influential person in the party.
That's great. That's great. All right. We're beginning to get the picture now. Okay. You said something very important, that when he left the school because he didn't like, I think he was expelled from school. He went and started to study. He did what many people, of course, are being advised to do today, that you need to educate yourself. No, you can go to school, but that is not enough. Until you educate yourself, you're going to be lacking behind. So he decided to educate himself, reading books and all that. Could you spend some time there, explain to us more, like what kind of books was he really reading? How was he getting the material to educate himself? And anything you want to share with us there? Why was he really doing that?
Firstly, the book that I read about him is that he did not have a lot of money, and he tried to work for how can we say that he tried to work for some people to clean their shoes in the area he was living in, to clean their shoes. Okay. And the money that he had at that moment, he split out that money in two parties. The first party was that he used to buy shoes, dresses, clothes, garments in order to look good. And the second part of that money, he used to buy so many books. Again, he used to buy so many books. And those books that he used to go to the communism area, because like in Guinea at the moment, there were so many French people who used to come to Guinea, and there were so many communists in Guinea, and he was really familiar with them because those people have the same ideas with him, because he was not a capitalist, he was a communist at that moment. And those people trained him, and while giving him so many books to read, you get? And that's why he had the mind of socialism when he led the Republic of Guinea.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That is very clear. Okay, now, how did he actually rise to prominence in Guinea? Like, when did he begin to wield his influence? Can you tell us about how he got to the position that he could actually be considered a leader in this time?
What I have to say to you that the power is not for you. The real power is the people. And Sékou Touré at that moment, he was very, very lucky to be loved by the Guinean community and the African as a whole continent. And especially the women were behind him. And there were like a song that they used to sing. Sékou Touré Basiliso, Tabara Fide Basiliso, Sékou Touré Basiliso, Tabara Fide Basiliso. That means that the elephant is here. Let's clap for the elephant. Let's clap for the elephant. Even today, the symbol of the Republic of Guinea is the elephant, which we call Sili. Okay? And people were behind him because the things that he was fighting for was very, very, very important and crucial, and people were in need of that. And nobody had that mindset in order to fight for that. And he had that gut to try to participate into the emancipations of the Guinean community. And as you know, at that moment, there were so many social restrictions, even at the cinema, even so many social environments. But he said he made a mind to fight for that in order to create a better place for the community.
How do you describe his own style of leadership? Because now you are a young undergrad, you are graduating soon because you're in your final year.
Yeah.
You have this much passion about leadership, which is something very, very important for us as Africans, no? And also because the person we are talking about today, Ahmed Sékou Touré, he wasn't an old person when he started to have interest in politics. He was already young, very young, when he started to have interest in a fair state. He didn't like the way the French were treating his people, so he wanted freedom for them. Exactly. And this happened while he was still very young. That is why I really like the idea that you are the one talking about it, because we could have also called a professor who have studied a lot, who probably have had a lot of experience in life. For this reason, he come to like Sékou Touré as a person. But you are a young person and you are looking at this individual in our society, try to learn from them. That is something very interesting. Now, tell me, how do you see his own leadership style?
I did not leave the moment of Sékou Touré, but I'm pretty sure that I know the life of Sékou Touré more than so many people who have who live the moment of Sékou Touré, because I read a lot about Sékou Touré, and so many of my friends criticized me at school because we were studying Sékou Touré, and the books that we were reading were against Sékou Touré's leadership. And I was supporting the leadership style of Sékou Touré. And so many people were saying that I am a revolutionist. Like, I love revolutions. Like, I'm a kind of people who is dictator and those kind of things. I said, you cannot try to criticize someone fully. Try to understand the ins and the outs of his leadership style and what are some of the things that drove him into that aspect. And so many of my facilitators, let me tell you something, before going to his leadership style, I remember one day I was in the classroom, and my teacher, I was in high school. My teacher was, we were doing like a critical studies on the African leaders in the independence period, okay? And we came to Sékou Touré's life, and there's a book that fully criticized Sékou Touré's leadership. And I got up and I said to my teachers and my friends in class, we need a critical studies to have a bigger picture about Sékou Touré, because he's a significant personality in Africa and the whole as a world. So when you are studying this one, you have to have like the ins and the outs of his leadership. And my teacher said to me that, get out of this class. Get out of this class. Get out of this class. And fortunately, I had a provisor. He's a Senegalese, by the way, because I studied in the Catholic school, one of the best schools in Guinea. It's very complicated to enter that school. And that supervisor told me, Bachir, what's really happened? I said I try to give my ideas on the way that the teachers is talking about Sékou Touré's, the leaders that led Africa in a certain moment of African life. And he said, but this teacher is not supposed to get you out of this class. You just give your ideas. You did not do something. Yeah. And after that day, the teacher said to me, Bashir, you can enter the class. But he was really reluctant. He said, this guy won't overthrow me here. I said to him, Mister, I don't want to vote. I just want to give my ideas. Bear with me. You know that I really appreciate your classes, but this thing, if we do not have a bigger picture about the African history, we will not be able to lead Africa. We are going to look at them as a criminals, as a tyrant, as some people who did not do anything for Africa. Because when you look at so many European countries or America, their leaders are heroes for them, even though they did not do a completely good side, but they're heroes for them because they did so many significant actions in terms of the country's emancipation. Following up your questions, I will say that Sékou Touré was known for his Pan-Africanist and socialist views, and he really advocated for the unity of African countries and the establishment of a socialist state in Guinea. And he implemented policies that aimed to promote economic self-sufficiency and reduce dependence on foreign aid. And also, Touré also suppressed opposition and dissent through authoritarian measures, because these are supposed to be said. Because some people say that Sékou Touré is a hero, and other people on the flip side say that Sékou Touré is a tyrant. But for me, as a future leader of my country and Africa as a whole, I try to depict some of his good side, develop that, explore that, and put that in place into the development and the growth of my country, and try to avoid some of his bad side that will not be able to lead the country. That's why I say that I have a critical mindset, a critical ideas and conceptions on the African leaders, actions in Africa.
Thank you very much for that. That is very important. We always need to have a holistic view when we are looking at issues related to leadership, or we are talking of people, because it is difficult to just pick out an individual and just say the person is good or the person is bad, because what makes up the human being is complex. You cannot see any good person who does not have some element of bad in him or her. And you cannot see any bad person who does not have some element of good. So it depends on where do you want to stand and do the analysis. But to be objective, to be clear, we need to weigh both sides. In fact, we never need to tell people this is what you should believe. This is my point of view. This is how I see it. Let the person judge for his or herself whether based on the evidence the person is good or bad. But in any case, in a general sense of it, we are looking at a hero who have done a lot of things for his people. That is why we are looking at. That's why we are talking about him. He have done a lot of good things in Guinea, but of course he might also have done some bad thing that make him a human being. Because if he have only done good thing, if I don't know any person who have only done good thing in life. Anyway, you will help me. You will help me with this. How do the Guineans actually see this individual? When they say Sékou Touré, what kind of image comes to mind for the Guinean people?
You know why I'm laughing a little bit, or why I'm smiling? It's because of my father. I do not have the same point of view of my father with Sékou Touré's actions in Guinea.
That's fair enough.
My father treats me as a revolutionary, as a reactionist. He said that Sékou Touré has put backward the Republic of Guinea. I said, Papa, you were at the moment of Sékou Touré, and did you pay any tuition fee to go to school? He said to me, no, I need it. And how about this time around? And are you paying tuition fee for us or not? He said, yes, I'm paying tuition fee for you guys. I said, you see the epoch, the areas of Sékou Touré, and you are very well educated, and so many people who were at the moment of Sékou Touré had so many scholarships abroad to study for free, and they had a good educations. And today, they do not have it. We do not have it in Guinea. That are some of the problems. And currently, the president who is leading the Republic of Guinea, the Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, renamed the name of the airport of the Republic of Guinea. It's now named as the International Airport of Ahmed Sékou Touré, which was very controversial in the Republic of Guinea. So many people said that, no, you're not supposed to rename this airport as Sékou Touré because he's a tyrant. And some people were saying, no, that's very amazing, that's very insightful to rename this airport as Sékou Touré because he's a hero. You see, when you talk about Sékou Touré, it's more controversial because they're like a family in Guinea who are the victims of Sékou Touré's political actions. You get? And we treat them as an enemies of Guinea because there were so many things that were against Sékou Touré when he was leading Guinea, because he was the first president in the French colonialist country to say to France, we need our independence in 1958. At that moment, we had so many things and so many influences to influence like the Guinean leaders in order to kill Sékou Touré. And those people who were caught were considered as an enemies. And there are so many families there, they do not consider Sékou Touré as an hero, but they consider him as a tyrant. And talking about Sékou Touré is more controversial to say.
All right, I get it. And this is why we are talking about it, because we really need to. It is our job to look at our hero and explain who they are. It doesn't mean that, I repeat again, it doesn't mean that they haven't done anything bad. That is not why we are talking about them. All right, now, there is an error that was made in Nigeria. I don't know for Guinea if the same thing was made. Because when you say it's controversial, I mean, do the people really know who he is? Did the people really know what he did? Because in Nigeria, the error that was made is that the federal government of Nigeria, which of course controlled the Nigerian educational system, decided to remove history from school. Which means for very many years, more than 10 years, history was not considered an important subject to be taught in school. And of course, we talked about it here by asking what can be the implication of that. Of course, there is a strong implication of that in that the people of Nigeria are now told that they don't need to learn about their origin, where they are coming from, who have done what, why they did what they did. And when this happens, when things like this happen, what's supposed to be the pride of the people become a subject of manipulation. Because the people do not know who this individual is. Then when some individual frame them in a bad light, the people think that they are actually bad people because they have not been given a fair view of who the people is. Exactly. Whereas they were supposed to be taught, the state was supposed to come with a holistic understanding of who this individual is, why we should treasure them, why we should talk about them. So that when the individual want to make up their mind of whether to regard them as good or bad, they have enough information on their hand to make their judgment. I don't know if a similar thing have happened in Guinea. If that is why people they look at it as controversial, are the people giving the right information about who Sékou Touré really is? That is where I'm trying to go from there.
Your question is more controversial, by the way. You know, politics, it's about interest. If you do not find your interest in that area, you will create a lot of a lot of things that are negative on that person who's leading. Because politics, there's no friendship. And Secretary did so many things for the Republic of Guinea, and he tried to enable people in order to have a better society. But there's one thing that that I'm supposed to say. People who are having controversial perspectives on Secretary's actions in Guinea and Africa as a whole is the fact that Sékou Touré was the first president in the French countries on African continent to say to France at the moment of de Gaulle, who dared to tell de Gaulle that we need something? De Gaulle, who fought for the First War and the Second War, and he said to that militarist, that soldier, that we need our independence. And through that period, there were so many people who were against that. And the French politics tried to influence so many leaders in Guinea in order to overthrow Sékou Touré. At that moment, it was very critical for Sékou Touré to know people who are with him or not, because there were so many attempts to kill him. I remember when the Portuguese people came to Guinea and killed so many people, because at the moment they wanted to kill people, they wanted to kill Sékou Touré, but they did not have him. And there were so many people inside that actions in order to overthrow Sékou Touré. And those people who were cut off and their families today, they do not want to hear anything about Sékou Touré's actions, some of the good things that he did. But let me tell you something. I try to look at the critical aspect or the holistical aspect of my point of view on Sékou Touré's actions. The things that I'm going to say, it's very important and crucial. It's that after the independence, Sékou Touré's government adopted a socialist approach to economic development while nationalizing many industries and implementing policies aimed at improving the standard of living for Guinea citizens. And he emphasized on the importance of the education, as I said previously, and the healthcare, and made significant investment in these areas. As you know today, the only airport that we have was created at the moment of Sékou Touré. And the only stadium that people play on, the professionals, foreigners play on, was made by Sékou Touré. That was since 1958. I was not even born at that moment. And he tried to emphasize the importance of education and healthcare, as I said. And while his policies were not always successful, let me tell you something. His policies were not always successful because what? He had like his brothers with whom like they did not have like the same perspectives as him, because those people were killing people. He didn't even know that those people killed people. But after their action, that he will get aware that those people killed his ministers who were innocent people. But his commitment to improving the life of Guinea's people was very unwavering. And the second part is that despite the controversies surrounding his legacy, there's no doubt that Sékou Touré had a significant impact on African politics and the struggle against colonialism. And his leadership helped to inspire a generation of African nationalists as me. And his commitment to independence and self-determination was a powerful message in the face of European imperialism. And the fact is, his legacy continues to be felt across Africa today as the continent grapples with issues of governance, economic development, and social justice. Thank you.
That remains uncontested. That's great. All right. Now, for those who do not like him, for those Guineans who have grudges against him, what are they accusing him of? What did Sékou Touré actually did that they are accusing him of that made him not to like him?
You know, at the moment of Sékou Touré, there were so many conspiracies. There were so many conspiracies against Sékou Touré in order to kill him. Because Sékou Touré killed some of the leaders in Guinea who were part of that conspiracy in order to eliminate Sékou Touré under the influence of France. And there were so many innocent in there who were killed, and there are so many people who were really, really involved into the conspiracy in order to eliminate Sékou Touré. And now their kids and their families, all of those people say that he's a tyrant, he killed people, he's a dictator. But at the moment, it was very hard as far as I'm concerned, because Sékou Touré was isolated by so many countries in Europe. And he tried to rely on the how can we, at the moment, Soviet Republic.
Soviet Union.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. Soviet Union. He tried to rely on those people in order to lead his politics. But today, those people who are saying that he is a bad leader, he's a dictator, is because their parents were involved into so many things that were against Sékou Touré's politics. As far as I'm concerned, the isolation of Sékou Touré enabled him to, in his period of leading the Republic of Guinea, kill some innocents who were not part of the conspiracy against him. But let me tell you something, there are so many people behind that. There were so many killings that Sékou Touré was not abreast of. It's at the final point that he realized that they killed those people. Let me give you an example. There was the first Secretary General of the African Union was Jaloteli. I don't know if you know him. It's Jaloteli. He's the Guinean who became the first Secretary General of the African Union. They killed him at the prison. But he didn't know that they killed him. It's later on that he realized that they killed him. He regretted a lot. And people who killed him, that was his brothers. Not from the same mother, but from the same father. They killed him. And so many people say that he was really part of that conspiracy against Sékou Touré, but Sékou Touré didn't want to kill him. Do you get the concept? And now there's all these hates around the policies of Sékou Touré, that puts some people to say that he's a dictator, he's a tyrant, he's not a good leader. But there are so many people who are saying that he's an hero, as my generation, for instance, because what we have seen in terms of the economic aspect, in terms of the social aspect, is far away from what we are currently seeing in the Republic of Guinea. And it's an inspiration for all Guineans and African leaders today that Sékou Touré did so many things for the African continent.
Well, yeah. Some part can be a little bit delicate, no? That now he is the leader of Guinea, and his brothers are going around killing people. Who's going to take responsibility for that?
I think it's Sékou Touré because they all put that plight on Sékou Touré because he's the leader, and that's why uh, when Sékou Touré died in Cleveland in the U.S. after a few months, what happened? They did a coup d'état. And the president who came was Lansana Conte. Lansana Conte is from my ethnic group. He's Susu. He come from Bofa. I come from that village as well. When he took the power, his brothers, they killed them because they said that those are the significant people who destroy, who spoil the political aspect of Sékou Touré. They killed them because they killed millions of Guineans people, the innocent people in that prison, because they were the ones who were leading that. I remember there's an interview of Sékou Touré whereby a French journalist came in Guinea. He asked him that they are telling him that he does not respect human rights. He said, "What are you saying? I do respect human rights. If you do not believe me, go to the prison, go ask people." He was really confident. But there are so many things that were around his political aspect that he was not aware of. But when you're a leader, you will not be loved by everyone. And when you're a leader as well, you are trying to have like a good environment, people who are around you. It's very important. Because even though you are good, but those people can make you as a bad person. You get? And that's what really happened from my perspective to Sékou Touré.
So does it mean that he was not really fully in charge in that some people behind him went ahead and started killing other people? All right, now the point is, when he got to be aware that this have happened, a lot of people were killed behind his back, he was not the one that gave the order. What did he do as a leader?
When you talk about the African politics, it's very complicated because it's characterized by values, traditions, and so on. And it's his brothers who were there. So I read a book whereby he said to his brother, "What you are doing is not good." But he couldn't kill his brothers. And so many people were saying that his brothers was a capitalist and himself was a socialist. So his brothers didn't love his political ideas or mindset. You get the point? So there's an aspect of taking revenge on the people who were not in the same ideas with them. So I think he did not take a strong actions or significant actions around that towards mitigating that issues in the Republic of Guinea. That was the only thing that I can say about that question.
Like I said before, it is not possible to find a leader who has no fault, because it means we are looking for angel in that case. Whereas we are looking for human being who can also make mistake. But of course, when you make mistake, you need to own up to it that, okay, I have made a mistake. Then the people can forgive you, because that is part also of forgiveness. But sometimes we find leaders now, when they make mistake, they try to hide it with lies. And when you tell one lie, you need to tell another one again and another one. It's just a loop. It never ends. That is not a good example. Anyway, I'm not saying that is what Sékou Touré is. I'm just saying that there are some leaders who does this and it's not a good thing. All right, coming back to Sékou Touré as a leader, what was his kind of philosophy?
I will say that Sékou Touré wanted to have social and economic equality in the Republic of Guinea, for all Guineans to take advantage of the resources that we have, because Guinea is considered as the water tower of Africa and of West Africa and the geographical scandal of Africa, because we have the largest reserve of bauxite in Guinea. So his political, his philosophical ideas were that everyone's are supposed to be involved into the process of development, and they are supposed to have the same benefits that everyone are supposed to be having. And also, he tried to empower women in order to be part of the political aspect in the Republic of Guinea. That are some of the philosophical ideas that I can say. As you can see that Sékou Touré tried to nationalize every single industries in Guinea. We have the industry of sugar, we have the industry of clothes, of the traditional cloth, so many things. We had so many flights, but they have been sold by the next government who came. So Sékou Touré did so many things for Guineans in order to be recognized on the national scale and international scale. And before, the values that Guineans had before are not the same. And that's why currently the new president, the Colonel Mohamed, what he's doing is try to rebrand the Guineans. As you can see, currently he's really working on in order to portray the values of the Republic of Guinea. And that's why so many people are saying Guinea Conakry. It's not Guinea Conakry. You didn't even have that courage before to say Guinea Conakry, because Guinea was known by everyone. When you go, they will say, "Oh, you from Guinea Sékou Touré. You from Guinea Sékou Touré." People know. But some people don't know Sékou Touré currently. And it's even because of Sékou Touré that so many African countries took their independence. If you look at the flag of Guinea-Bissau and the flag of Guinea, it's practically the same. If you look at the flag of Senegal, the flag of Mali, even Mali is even Mali start from green, yellow, and red. For us, it starts from red, yellow, and green. It's the same. It's practically the same. When you look at so many African countries, like they took inspirations from Guinea, because we had that courage to say that we need our independence. And the person who did that was Sékou Touré. It is very significant.
That's interesting. All right. So when you said Ahmed Sékou Touré empower women or try to empower women, I want you to expand on that. What can we prove for that? What is the proof for that? What is the evidence that he actually did empower women or wanted to empower women? Share something with me.
Okay, let me share that with you. When they created industries, before at that moment, this moment and before is not the same. In Guinea, at the moment of Sékou Touré, like there were so many women who were part of the industry there. They were working there, and they were having so many things in order to feed the family. And the men were saying that they do not want their women to be there. And Sékou Touré said, no, they are supposed to participate into the economic and the social development in the Republic of Guinea. And when you look at so many ministers in Guinea were female as well at the moment, Hajambalu, for instance. And there are so many Guineans, women who were representing Guinea at the United Nations as well, in order to name few. And these are the things that at that moment was not very, very prominent, but Sékou Touré tried to involve everyone into the process.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're not going to talk of Duboya, the current military head of state, right? Because then we'll be talking a bit about democracy and things like that. But anyway, that is a different conversation altogether. Now,
Okay.
talking of the person of
If what we can talk about that as well, I'm ready for that because I know what I'm seeing in government. I
all
was
right.
doing leadership in the government. I know, but we can
That,
talk
that
about that later
that's
on.
interesting. We can take it up another day. So we will remain with the person of Ahmed Sékou Touré because yeah, we are talking about his life and legacy today. Now, what are the challenges? How do you look at the key challenges that he had as a leader? Because as a leader, it is not possible to have it all smooth all the way. You are going to, not even only in leadership, life is generally made like that. So, what do you consider as his major obstacles, his major challenges as the leader of Guinea?
I think some of the challenges that he faced in the Republic of Guinea is that when he took independence, and there was the France influence on him in order to overthrow him, and so many conspiracies around that in order to eliminate him because he inspired so many African countries to take their independence. That's why later on, so many African countries took their independence and reclaimed their emancipations as well and their independence. And these are some of the things that Sékou Touré tried to hold on. And what I can say about some of the challenges again is that they consider him as a dictator, and so many people left him behind in terms of the political aspect in order to develop Guinea and so on. And he tried to rely on the Soviet Union in order to develop Guinea. And the things that here is that the Republic of Guinea was very isolated on the international scale because the Republic of Guinea, Sékou Touré, took his responsibility in order to drive the Republic of Guinea destiny. These things try to push him in order to make things very better for the community. And that's why, which didn't happen with anything like challenges. And so many people consider him as a tyrant, and so many people consider him as a hero. Yeah.
You did make mention of the airport, the international airport in Guinea, and also the
Stadium.
football stadium,
Yeah.
which are great achievement. Because now I want you to tell me more about his achievement. What did he actually leave the Guinea people with that they can consider as his major achievement as a leader?
Some of his major, I think some of his major accomplishments is that it's about the independence of Guinea from France in 1958, and also establishing a socialist state in Guinea. And apart from that, nationalizing many industries and created a state-run economy. And he also promoted education and healthcare and established close ties with other African countries. At the moment of the Sékou Touré's period, that Guinea had in the African continent so many embassies around the world. I can confirm that, and you can do your research as well. But today it's not the same case. The destinations of Guinea, the destination of so many foreigners were in Guinea. Let me tell you an example. Miriam Makeba, Stockholm Kelly were in Guinea. They had the Guinean nationality, and Miriam Makeba represented Guinea at the United Nations to talk about Guinea. She represented Guinea at the United Nations, and she had the Guinean nationality. But the fact is, it was also a destination of all African leaders who were discriminated, who was refuted by their community as well. Nelson Mandela came to Guinea to have trainings. You see the point? Even the former president of Guinea-Bissau came to Guinea to take refuge. That's why the Portuguese came to Guinea in order to take him over. These are some of the things that I'm going to say. It was a Pan-African space for all African leaders and the leaders as a whole.
Thank you for that. Now, this is a big question. And of course, you already have responded to part of it. What are his legacy? What do we remember him for? When we say Ahmed Sékou Touré, what should that name mean for us, for young Africans and for young Guineans?
Wow, this is a very controversial question. I will say that Sékou Touré is remembered as a controversial figure who played a significant role in Guinea's history, and his leadership style and policies have been both praised and criticized, and his legacy continues to be debated in the Republic of Guinea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Is there something that you wanted to say? I didn't ask you.
Not really. I think we covered some of the things here. I think it was very important for some people to know. And some of the things that people usually say Guinea-Conakry, it's not the right thing. If you really know the history of Africa, I think you would not be able to say Guinea-Conakry. You will say the Republic of Guinea. Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.